Hi guys, it's Variety Princess. Welcome back to the channel. So Halloween just revealed how we're actually going to queue to play Michael Myers, and it's interesting to say the least. So basically what they're introducing are called killer tokens that can give players priority for Michael. And at first I was kind of like, wait, what the hell does that mean? Like, because I was confused about if they were going to do a system kind of like Friday the 13th was. And it is similar to that, but with a caveat. So I'm going to show you guys what they said in today's update video.
How does queuing work in Halloween the Game? Halloween the Game utilizes a role-based matchmaking system that allows players to queue as either killer or civilian. Ahead of matchmaking, players choose their desired role and enter dedicated queues. Players can also select no preference and enter matchmaking with the chance of joining either side. For aspiring slashers hoping to spend more time with the boogeyman, Halloween the Game introduces an in-game currency that advances your position in the Michael queues. Killer tokens can be earned by playing and completing matches. These killer tokens can then be spent to enter a priority matchmaking pool that reduces your wait time. Killer tokens are not consumed until a player has entered a match as Michael. And for additional multiplayer options, players can host online private matches and choose specific roles or randomize teams with friends. The wait for Michael's return is nearly over, and we can't wait to catch you in Haddonfield when Halloween the Game launches on Xbox Series X and S, PS5, and PC on September 8th, 2026.
Okay, so I kind of want to take a look at what we're working with here. First and foremost, the characters look really, really freaking good. I mean, she looks gorgeous. She looks so cute. I just kind of wanted to pause and look up here. So it has single player, multiplayer characters, and then graveyard. That's interesting. And then it has, you know, your level up here and whatnot. It looks very similar to that of like TCM, I'd say. So this is what it's going to look like, guys. And we have the killer queue, and then we have the civilian queue, and then we have no preference. Now, I do want to make this clear. Tokens are not required to play Michael, okay? Tokens are not required to play him. It's just a priority thing. It gives you priority in the Michael queue. So you're probably wondering, why are they doing it like this? So everybody wants to be Michael, at least for the most part. And 1v4 makes that impossible. So with Friday the 13th, for example, it was 1v7. And obviously, you're gonna have a lot of people wanting to be Jason, but it's just not gonna be feasible for everybody to be Jason. Now, I will say, I do, in my own personal experience, it seemed like more people definitely wanted to be Jason in Friday the 13th versus people wanting to be family in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There was always a delay with getting enough people in the queue to be family. Me personally, I love playing family. I was never one of those people that loved playing victim that much, and I'm still not. So I would queue up for family most of the time. But I think with Friday the 13th, there was always people wanting to be Jason. And you only needed one person for that. Same with this game. People are gonna want to be Michael Myers. And there's gonna be more people probably wanting to be him. But there's only one Michael, right? In Texas Chainsaw Massacre, at least there were 3 people that could fill those spots. We're not going to have that in this game. Now, I do know with Friday the 13th, people could wait forever to get Jason, or they could leave because they didn't get him. I did experience that quite a bit in that game. And I also feel like some people would leave if they got Jason and they didn't want to be him as well. Now, I do think it's really cool that it's going to incentivize actually playing and completing games because it encourages people to spend some time as the civilians. It gives dedicated Michael players a way to occasionally shorten the inevitable killer queue. So it is pretty cool that they're giving people a reason to play the game, which, you know, I'm not going to get into the whole gun interactive and Ilphonic thing, but y'all have seen what have happened to some of their other titles or and then there's also the concern that this might be monetized in the future and they'll give people the ability to pay for killer tokens, which could be a whole different issue in itself that will likely cause problems. I don't know if they'll do that. Hopefully they won't, but could I see them doing it in this day and age? Absolutely. Now, the part that could get messy though is priority queue stacking. How common are these tokens going to be? Is there a cap? How much priority do they give? What does the standard Michael queue look like when lots of people have tokens? And what happens months after launch with new players? I'm not really sure about that because if one person has a token, right? And then another person who wants to be Michael gets a token, and then another person gets a token, and it just ends up being everybody has a lot of tokens, is priority actually going to feel like priority anymore? If you've ever played GTA RP and you have been in a server that offered priority queuing, you might know what it feels like to pay for priority or have some sort of priority currency. And then it just kind of starts to feel like you don't have it at all and you're just basically in another regular queue. And then for the people who are actually in the real regular queue, it almost feels as if they're never progressing through the queue because there's so many people with priority in front of them. So I really hope they alleviate situations like that somehow. I'm guessing there might be some sort of cap to how many tokens you can have. We don't really know the details yet, but I'm curious to know in the comments what you guys think would be the best way for them to handle this killer token priority queue situation. This user on Reddit said, "I'm thrilled that there are dedicated queues instead of what F13 did. I want to be able to mentally brace myself for whichever role I've queued for, and I don't want to have to deal with people purposely ruining the match because they didn't get to be Michael. The killer token thing is an interesting solution to the inevitable disparity between the queue times. I'm pretty satisfied with DBD's play as you wait thing, but I'll see how this token system really feels in practice before I pass judgment on it." And then someone responded and said, "That was the fun part of Friday the 13th. You never knew if you became the killer or not, or were going to become the killer or not. And it equaled more casual play." And then somebody else responded to them and said, "Having games constantly end in seconds because the host didn't get Jason was not fun at all." I see both sides. I don't know what I prefer. I didn't really have an issue with not knowing. I kind of agree with what Electrical Rate is saying. I liked kind of not knowing, but it isn't fun playing something when the host doesn't get Jason and then they leave. So I can understand that as well. I also do like the idea of being able to mentally prepare myself for whatever I'm going to be in the game. So if I'm going to be Michael or the civilian, I do like the idea of just going in knowing and knowing I'm about to murder people or knowing I'm about to be trying to save lives. Someone else said, "I'll miss being able to be killer against my friends in randoms and public lobbies, but this system seems like an okay in between." I do think this is an okay in between. I agree with what they're saying there. I also did like being able to play killer against my friends in randoms and public lobbies. That was always very funny. The issue with that, though, that I experienced on the other end is that when people would be in lobbies playing with their friends and their friends would be the killer, they would sometimes work together, which honestly, it made for funny ass gameplay sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. When you like realize somebody was helping Jason out, it was kind of like, what the hell are you doing? And it made for funny memories. But when you had people like messing around all the time like that, it did get kind of old. I think I would prefer it being separate, but there were always fun times to be had when you were in the game with your friends and they would end up being Jason, you know? And lastly, we have someone who's a little bit skeptical about it. This person said, "So if you don't have any killer tokens and want to play as Michael, you could theoretically wait an infinite amount of time because someone with a killer token will always be placed ahead of you in queue. This definitely does not seem like the optimal solution." And I can understand where they're coming from with that. Someone responded and said, "I can't imagine you'll be able to gain that many tokens to have it to be too big of an issue, but we'll see. We won't know until we see." So that is a very valid concern to have, I think, though. And then the last person said, "As long as there's a cap to how many tokens you can have, it'd be rough for new players months down the road trying to play as Myers." And I agree with that too. If everybody has tokens galore and then we have new people joining the game later on, it's going to suck for them in the Michael queue. So honestly, I think there should be a cap. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments though. I actually think this is a good idea on paper. Whether it's good in practice depends entirely on the token economy and matchmaking population, and we're about to find out because early access is next Friday. So we shall see. You guys can let me know what you think down in the comments below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be back with more Halloween the game soon. Thanks for watching.